Students, now let's get started with the new topic of lesson number 2, federalism. Yesterday we have seen the 7 features of federalism. Today we are going to that we have seen in general terms. Now we are going to study the principles which make India a federal country. We are going to see the principles of federalism, whether they apply to the provisions of the Indian Constitution and how are they applied. We are going to study about those principles and we are going to see whether India is federal or not and what makes India a federal country. Those principles we are going to check now. So, we are going to begin with first recalling what we have seen regarding the management of diversity in countries like Belgium in the first chapter and Sri Lanka. Do you remember that how the diversity was managed? So, similarly in India also there is diversity. What was the diversity there in Belgium and Sri Lanka? In Belgium diversity was related to the languages, and what about Sri Lanka? The diversity again there was related to languages, for example the Tamil speaking people and the Sinhala speaking people. So India also has lot of diversity, though they were small countries, but India is a vast country first of all, and secondly India has so much of diversity in languages and religions and regions. So how to manage this diversity? So what kind of power sharing arrangements are in India, that we are going to study in this part. So we will begin with the constitution. So what does constitution describe India as? Before this you'll have to understand little bit like regarding what happened to the country before partition and after partition, and it is related with diversity. See, before independence. So before independence India had experience of a very bloody and painful partition, and after partition several princely states they became part of India. Constitution, it describes India as a union of states. Try to understand that the word states is included, as constitution describes India as a union of states. And although the word federation has not been used in the constitution, but the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. That is what we have to do here. We have to check what are those principles on which the Indian Union is based. So we have seen the 7 features of the federalism. So those 7 features they apply to the provisions of Indian Constitution. Are you understanding? So we will see how those 7 features of federalism in general terms they apply to the provisions of Indian Constitution. So let's start with the first feature. The Constitution, it provides for, originally it provided for a 2-tier or level of governments in India, that is the union government and the state government, and later one more tier or level was added, that is of the local government, which includes the panchayats in rural areas and municipalities in urban areas. So one is rural local government and one is urban local government. Did you understand that there are 3 levels of government in India: union government, state government and local government? Okay, now look at the second feature. What is this? The second feature is about Indian Constitution also provides for separate jurisdiction. So all these 3 levels they enjoy separate jurisdiction. The Constitution, it provides for 3-fold distribution of legislative powers between the central government and the state government. So in this way the powers are divided or they are separate. their jurisdiction is separate. Their area of authority is separate. They can make laws. Okay, now take example of legislative powers. So the two levels of government, it can make laws related to separate subjects. What is that? So for that you have to understand the three lists. So the constitution, it includes three lists. Remember, how many lists are there? Three. One is called union list, second is state list, and third is the concurrent list. Now what does it mean? Union list means it includes the subjects of national importance, common national importance, such as defense. So any law has to be made related to the defense of the country. It is included in union list. And who makes laws on such issues? The union government, it makes laws on such issues. If it is related with foreign trade, if it is related with railways, if it is related with post and telegraph, so these subjects, banking, so these subjects are included in union list. And who makes the laws? The union government. Why? Because the country should have uniform policies on these subjects. So therefore the union government, it makes laws. Understood? Union list. Now the second is state list. This includes the subject of state and local importance. So issues like, for example, irrigation, if any law has to be made related with agriculture or irrigation, so who makes laws on such subjects? Like police, trade. So the state government, it makes laws on such subjects. And then there are some subjects which are of common interest to both the levels of government. For example, education. So who makes laws related to education? Both of them can make laws related to education. But remember one thing, if the laws made by the two levels of government, if they contradict one another, then the law of the central government, it prevails. Now what are about the subjects which are not included in these three lists? Okay, so what has to be done in that case? In subjects which are not included in these three lists, and subjects which came up after the constitution was made, so those subjects, they are included in, they are described as residuary subjects. And who has the power to make laws on residuary subjects? The union government. One example of a subject that came up after the constitution was made is computer software. So whatever subjects are left other than this, other than the subjects included in the three lists, as well as the subject that came up later after the constitution was made, so those subjects are called as residuary subjects. Do you understand the second feature? Okay, now we move to the next feature, but before that, before studying the next features, you have to understand regarding what powers we are seeing, the powers of the central government, state government. Here you have to study about what powers are there with the with certain states and union territories, the concept of union territories. So some states, they enjoy special status. Do you remember when we studied the difference in the two types of federations, the coming together and the holding together federations? In holding together federations, we have studied that the powers of the constituent states are not identical. They do not have similar powers. So here is one example of that. In India, some states, they enjoy special status. They have special powers. So examples of such states are Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Mizoram. They enjoy special powers under Article 371. So what is the reason for giving special powers or special status to these states? The reason is because of peculiar historical and social circumstances. They have been given the special powers, and the special powers, they are in relation to what? The special powers are in relation to the protection of the land rights of the indigenous people and their culture. Are you understanding? Means suppose of Nagaland, the rights of the land rights of the native people of Nagaland and the culture of the native people of Nagaland. In order to protect that, the special powers are given. Similarly, in relation to giving preferential employment in government services, means I am taking example of Nagaland. So the native people, they are given preferences while giving jobs in government services. Okay, and Indians who are not permanent residents of these states. So like we or me, for example, I am not a permanent resident of Nagaland, so I cannot buy house or land there. Only those who are permanent residents there, they can buy house or land there. Are you understanding? This is the special example of special powers to certain states. And similar some special provisions for other states also has been made. Now what about the union territories? So you know that in India now there are how many union territories? 9 union territories are there. Examples: Delhi, okay, the capital of India, is a union territory. Chandigarh is a union territory. Lakshadweep. So what about these union territories' powers? They enjoy very little power. The union territories, they enjoy very little power. See, these territories, they are very small. In order, means they are too small to be given the status of a state. And first of all, and secondly, they cannot be merged with any of the existing states. Means we cannot merge with Delhi with Punjab. Are you understanding? And secondly, it is too small to be described or given the status of a state. So therefore it is called a union territory, and they do not have the powers which state governments are having. And central government, they have special powers in running these union territories. Recently you must have heard that Jammu and Kashmir, it was a state, but now Jammu and Kashmir, the state which means earlier what existed as state of Jammu and Kashmir, now it has been bifurcated, means it has been divided into 2 union territories. One is union territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the other is of Ladakh. Alright, so now we come back to the features. I was telling you the first, second feature we have seen. Third feature, do you remember? It is related to the existence and authority of the levels of government. It is guaranteed by the constitution. So it is their existence and authority is constitutionally guaranteed. Now we come to the fourth feature. The power sharing arrangement, students, is basic to the structure of the constitution. The power sharing between whom? The central government and the state government. So if any change has to be made to this basic structure, so what is the procedure? First of all, it is not very easy to make change to this basic structure of the constitution. Parliament alone cannot change the basic structure, cannot bring any change to the basic structure. So how, if a change has to be brought, how it has to be brought? See, first of all, that change, it has to be passed in both the houses of the parliament by 2/3 majority. Both the houses of parliament means in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, that change has to be approved by 2/3 majority. What is 2/3 majority? It is out of 100, it is about 66%. Okay, so by 2/3 majority, this change has to be approved, and after that it has to be ratified, means it has to be consented formally by the legislatures of at least half of the total states. How many states are there in India? 28. So at least 14 states legislatures should also ratify it, should also give formal consent to it. Then only that change can be brought. Okay, So the next feature we have to understand now, that is applying that applies to the provisions of the Indian Constitution, is regarding the role of the judiciary. Judiciary, it makes a decision in case of any dispute about the division of powers. Okay, so High Court and Supreme Court, it has the power to make a decision. Then the sixth feature is about how it is about raising of resources. Okay, so these two levels of government, they have the power to raise resources. How they can raise resources? Like money, for example. How they can raise this resource? By levying taxes. So they levy taxes upon the people and they are raising resources. And what for? In order to carry on the government and their responsibilities, they can raise resources. Okay, so these we have studied how the features of federalism, they apply to the provisions of the Indian Constitution. So after studying all the federal constitutional provisions, students, let's revise now the two topics that we have finished in this chapter so far. We have covered two topics. The first was the description of federalism in general terms. Okay, and today we have covered this second topic, that is discussion of federal constitutional provisions. Yes, so let's revise once what we have studied in these two topics. First is the description of federalism in general terms. So here we have divided it into 5 parts. I divided this into 5 subtopics. Like in first subtopic we have seen that how Belgium, it got shifted from unitary to a federal form of government. Do you remember what was the change that was brought about by the constitution? That the powers of the central government were reduced and they were given to the state governments, the regional governments there. And secondly, the Belgium, it was it was no longer the regional government, they got constitutional powers. They were not dependent on the central government. And in this way, Belgium shifted from a unitary to a federal state. And what about Sri Lanka? There we saw the comparison. Sri Lanka, it remains to be a unitary form of government. It only has the national government which has all the powers. Then we studied the definition of federalism, that it is division of powers between the central authority and constituent states. And there we have seen that those two levels, one is central government, okay, and the other is federal government, or in India it is described as a central government. Like what powers they have got? The central government, it has the power to make laws on subjects of common national importance, and the state government, it looks after the day-to-day administering of the state. Okay. After that, we have seen the how federations, they are contrasted with unitary governments. Means in the unitary governments, either there exists only one level of government, okay, the central government, and if there and the state, and when there exists the constituent units are there, they are the sub units. So they, in unitary system, they are dependent on the central government. If they have got powers, those powers are given by the central government, and central government can withdraw those powers. So they do not have independent powers. But in a federal form of government, the governments, they have those two levels of government, like central government and state governments or regional governments, they have independent powers. They are independent of the other. Okay, so that was the fourth subtopic, and at last we have seen the features, 7 features of federalism. In short, we will revise those 7 features of federalism. First is that there are 2 or more levels of government. Second is that those levels of government, they enjoyed separate jurisdiction. Third is that their existence and authority of the levels of government, it is guaranteed, it is specified in the constitution, so it is constitutionally guaranteed their existence and authority. What was the fourth feature of federalism? It was regarding any change that has to be brought in the power sharing arrangement. It cannot happen unilaterally. There should be consent of both the levels of government. That was the fourth feature. Fifth feature was that the role of the judiciary, that if there is a dispute regarding the exercise of the respective powers, so who settles the dispute, who makes a decision? The judiciary, it makes the decision. That was the fifth feature. Sixth feature was regarding the raising of resources, like it is specified in the constitution the resource that how they are going to raise their resources. This was to ensure their financial autonomy. And seventh feature was regarding what are the two objectives of the federal government. One is to promote and protect the unity of the country, and second is to accommodate and respect the regional diversity. So this is the first topic that we have seen yesterday, what is federalism, and today we have seen the second topic, that is the federal constitutional provisions in India. Out of that we have seen 5 provisions in India that are we have studied about 5, and 6th and 7th though it is not given here, but it is such that it is understood that that exists in India also. The third feature, which is given in the general terms, it is regarded to the existence and authority is constitutionally guaranteed. It is specified in the constitution that exists in India also. Okay, and the last is regarding the objective of federalism. So we have seen that the 7 features of federalism, they are applied to the provisions in the Indian constitution. So should we revise those 5 ones? Yes. The first is that in India originally there were 2 levels of government, and then there was the third level added later in the form of local government. Okay. The second feature is regarding that these levels of government, they enjoy separate jurisdiction. Third, I have told you it is how it is specified. The fourth is regarding like if any change has to be made, how it has to be made, how it has to be passed by both the levels of government. The change has to be agreed to by both the levels of government. The fifth is if there is any dispute among the exercise of power, then the judiciary, it has the power to resolve the disputes, to make a decision. Okay. And the sixth one is regarding how the resources are raised. They are raising the resources by levying taxes, and what is the reason? In order to run the government, in order to carry on the government and responsibilities. So here we have finished the 2 topics of the chapter so far. Okay, so now you read it and understand whatever has been told to you from the textbook. Also by your reading, see how much you understand, and of course I have already explained to you. Still, if you have any difficulty, you may ask me. Okay, so with this I conclude today's explanation. Thank you.